All right, look, I was in the place of being told that my son was diagnosed with something that I really didn't even know what it really was. I knew a little bit, like in parts, but to be honest with you, I really didn't know. And I don't want you, especially new parents that are just finding out that your child is diagnosed with autism, to be in my position. I'm gonna give you the black and white on what it really is, and I'm gonna give you the shades of gray, at least the shades of gray that my son Elijah is in. And we're gonna talk about the nuances within that and the whole autism spectrum as a whole. Let's go. So we're really going to talk about what is ASD. ASD, or Autism Spectrum Disorder, is a neurological and developmental disorder that affects how people interact with others, communicate, learn, and behave. Although autism can be diagnosed at any age, it is described as a developmental disorder because symptoms generally appear from the age of 2 years old. People with autism often have the following: difficulty communicating or interacting with others, restricted interest or repetitive behaviors, symptoms that affect their ability to function in school, work, and other areas in their lives. Autism is known as a spectrum disorder because there are a wide range and varieties of types of symptoms and severity that are associated with autism. People of all genders, races, ethnicities, and economic backgrounds can all be affected and diagnosed with ASD. I'm going to get back with you when we talk about ethnicity, because there's another interesting study that I saw that I'm going to make a video on, talking about how autism affects the African American community. Although ASD can be a lifelong disorder, treatments and services can improve a person's symptoms and their daily function. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that all children receive a screening for autism. You heard that? Everyone is screened for autism. By the way, if you get a chance to check out my very first video, that's where I talk about the day that my son was diagnosed with autism. I talk about the feelings, the emotions, and the thoughts and everything that we had going into it, plus the things that we went to search out in the beginning of his journey to get him on the right track in dealing with his shade of gray on the autism spectrum. So Elijah was diagnosed to be autistic, but he was also identified as being level 3, which is the most severe level, which means that he needs assistance and he's going to need as much help as he can to develop moving forward. Now, finding that out, is obviously a tough pill to swallow, because, obviously as a parent, we all want our children to have the best quality of life as possible. Where me and my wife kind of fell is that it didn't matter what level he was, we were going to give him the most amount of support that we can get him so that he can have the best quality of life that he can possibly have. With that diagnosis, Elijah was also identified as being nonverbal, right? So even up to today, Elijah really doesn't have words. He really can't say a lot of different things in context. Now, mind you, currently right now, if Elijah sees some ice cream, he'll say ice cream. He'll say ice cream. So he has that down pretty good. And actually, just a few days ago, he's starting to get the idea of asking for more. When he wants to, like when he has his drink or something like that, he's learning to say more. Even though some of those things are starting to come into place, he's still identified as nonverbal, and we are doing things to work with that. So for the most part, he really doesn't have a lot of words, but he does have jargon. And actually, some of his jargon, it sounds really familiar to me and me and his mom, because we hear it all the time. So a lot of times, even though he's not using real words, we can kind of put together what he wants, what he's asking for, what he's trying to tell us, even though he's really not using the proper proper English, right? But the interesting thing is, to kind of go along with that, certain songs like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, stuff like that, he can get some of the sounds together to make it sound like he's actually singing the song. And to be honest with you, the way I take it is that he is singing the song. But he's starting to put those sounds together and those words together. And we're actually finding that music is a really helpful way for him to start to pick up words and start to put things together. So right now we're trying to lean in on that to kind of help him with his development a little bit more. But that's kind of what's working for us right now. Now with that, yeah, it does sadden me sometimes to kind of think that, I may not ever hear Elijah say, Dad, I love you, or have a full blown conversation with him or anything like that. But I'm also not ruling that out. I'm in a place, my wife is in a place of definitely meeting him wherever he is. We don't set any unrealistic expectations. We just see him for where he is. We meet him where he is, and wherever that road goes or wherever that road takes us, we're going to be in a place to support him no matter what. So some of the things that we did discuss, they definitely do fit Elijah where he is right now. For instance, where we talk about, Elijah's interaction. Most times that I notice, especially when Elijah goes to daycare, he's around kids, he's around peers and stuff like that. A lot of times he prefers to kind of play, by himself, play with toys. The daycare does a pretty good job of sending us pictures to kind of let us know the things they're doing throughout the day. And a lot of times I do notice that, when the kids are usually gathered around and everything, Elijah's, a lot of times off by himself, kind of doing something else, that he enjoys to do. Now, there are times where they'll be together and he'll be right there in the middle of it, participating in everything. So it's not always black and white. A lot of times when it comes to activities, he just needs to be in the place and in the mood, right, to go ahead and do that. But with all these things, it's all in his time, right? Wherever he's comfortable, participating and doing, he's going to do that. So even though Elijah likes being by himself, we are finding more and more he likes being around his brothers. He likes being around his sister. He likes playing a little bit more, maybe not in the full aspect that you would think your typical 3-year-old would, but he's definitely finding himself to be a lot more comfortable and a lot more engaging with more people. Elijah doesn't always, listen to what we tell him to do, or, when we say sit down, he doesn't always sit down, or when we tell him time to clean up or play, whatever the case is, he doesn't always do it, but it's like what 3-year-old really does, right? I mean, a lot of things are kind of typical for his age too, but he is always showing progress, and he's showing that he is starting to understand a lot of the things that we are talking about. And a lot of that just comes from setting the routine, right? That helps a lot as far as the structure. We don't really coddle him too much. We don't baby him too much. Now don't get me wrong. We spoil our baby. All right. And I don't care. This is what we do. But, we definitely hold him to a standard. We talk to him. We use plain language. We don't, do the goo goo gaga, none of that stuff like that, because we want to set an environment and a norm that we're going to talk to you, and we want him to be able to understand that, to receive that, and develop in that at his pace wherever he's comfortable. So for the most part, even though Elijah is classified as nonverbal, that doesn't mean that communication cannot happen. We have found a lot of different ways to, rather if it's, his physical movement, rather it's just looking at his gestures and see how he does, paying attention to his jargon, right? A lot of times when he'll say some of his jargon back to us, we'll reply right back. Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. That's, to kind of have that, to kind of make it feel like there is a conversation going on, and to also let him know that we are paying attention to what he's saying. So that, for the most part, is where Elijah is on the autism spectrum. We don't know, how long, right? Elijah will need to be in speech therapy, that he will need to be in occupational therapy, or even ABA, which is another thing that we're looking at. But the most important thing is that we identify and we understand where he is on the spectrum. And no matter, what title you give it, what category you put it in, we make sure that we pay attention to his needs and what's going on with him, and we meet him right there. If you have a child, where is your child on the autism spectrum? Is it level 1, 2, or 3? Are they nonverbal? What types of things are common, and what kind of things have you found that may have been helpful on your child's journey of being on the autism spectrum? Sharing these experiences will not only help me, but it may be able to help you too. And definitely, I want to have a community of people here that can talk about these things. Yeah, so I hope that kind of clears the picture a little bit as far as what autism really is. Again, you can have the word definition, you can have the black and white of what it really is. The most important part that we have seen is to really dig into finding out who your child is, paying attention to them, taking the information that the professionals give you, understanding your child, and the better that you understand that information, the better you'll be able to move forward and assist your child on their journey of the autism spectrum. Y'all take it easy. Please go ahead and hit the like and subscribe, and I definitely have more content coming at you very, very soon. Y'all take it easy. Peace.
ah, 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 mm, ah, 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 ah.